What are you drinking there, champ?
That's milk, because I was going to go get a coffee, but I didn't want to disturb her because she's out by where the kitchen is, and I would have had to boil the jug. So
Look at that.
Please,
Look,
milk.
that's our new sponsor for the week.
Chun yunai, like pure milk.
Chun yunai, like that? Did I say it right?
Yeah. Chun yunai.
Chun yunai. This week, Distracted Sports. 2 Cents Gets Distracted is brought to you by Chun yunai. Like, isn't that? Right, look at you. Where are you, Mark? You are in China. Yeah, how's it going over there?
Those are apartments. That's like a 30-something floor apartment building next door. 30
wow, fantastic.
Floors. If you don't got the TV, you can just look out the window and see what the hell your neighbours are up to.
I'm very much on the ground floor in West Auckland at the moment.
Right. I'm on the 14th floor.
Now look at you.
In kind of West Wuhan. So we're both Westies.
Yeah, that's right. How close are you to that Gainification Research Centre?
I think pretty far. I'm kind of in the burbs out here.
Well, it's either the lab though. That's the one you got to worry about because there's more credence in the old lab leak theory these days. The Gainification Research Centre of Wuhan studying coronaviruses.
I'll have to have a look on the map and see how far I am. But
you should do that for your video. Go along. Try and get into that facility.
I feel like that would get me more into trouble than what I was just talking about when I got into a little bit of trouble yesterday. But
yeah, okay. Well, we can talk about that a little bit later in the podcast. But this isn't a podcast about just talking about your wonderful expeditions around the wonderful land of China. This is a podcast about rugby.
Now, I'm going to be a little bit reliant on you, Tones, to kind of to guide us on the path of the rugby for the last couple of weeks. I've seen less than normal.
Oh, no, you can't do that. You can't do that because I've really been like, Mark's not here. I don't have to really stay too abreast with it. No one's going to be testing me on it every week. I have caught. You've been doing a little bit though. I've seen you've uploaded. You're still uploading your videos. You've still been getting out.
A little bit of Super Rugby, a little bit of Champions Cup. So yeah, watching what I can for sure.
Okay, well, I'd say that's basically what I've done as well. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. I can give you some more NRL insights into what they're doing and the world of them.
Exactly what I'm here for.
No. There is relevance to rugby union, but there's more and more rumors in the rumor mill. Rumors in the room. That's where they belong. That more players could just be sneaking across. And looking at Eddie Jones's history, Eddie Jones kind of built that World Cup team in 2003 team around poaching some incredible rugby league talent, and he's trying to do that. So we can talk a little bit about that down the track. But where should we start? Should we start with Heineken Cup? Should we start with Super Rugby? Or should we just look lovingly into each other's eyes and miss each other?
What's the feeling been like with the old Super Rugby across the last couple of weeks? Like, yes, last week there was only 4 games on. There's only 4 games on this week, or there is like a table topping clash between, I think, the Chiefs and the Hurricanes. But
super depressing. It should be called super depressing rugby, not Super Rugby at the moment. It kind of, and it seems wild to me that, a big weekend where people are off and people want to get some entertainment, we only put on 4 games, whereas in the NRL they put on more games than they usually do. So
does it just seems the NRL have more common sense with just like basic kind of marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. They seem to be able to sell the fight. They're way better with the narrative. They're way better with the storytelling. They really tap into the tribalism of the fans and all that sort of jazz. They're not self-righteous in the way they promote it. They promote to the primal level of what a fan really wants to see and all that sort of
stuff.
Yeah, you could call it that, or you could just call it general human interest. Like people love a fight and people love conflict.
I don't mean to be derogatory about it, but that's kind of like, if you've got like an action movie, you're not trying to sell it on its plot and nonsense, right? You just like, this is what it is. Like, sell it for what it is.
Yeah. Well, they do sell the plot. They sell the players that have gone to other teams where there may be bad blood. They sell the historical rivalries. They sell the argy-bargy and the niggle that's been in between these teams and all that sort of stuff. And they give it a lot of sort of pomp and ceremony is not quite the word, but like the bogan version of pomp and ceremony, whatever that is. And it's thrilling to watch. To me, it kind of reminds me a lot because I've been flicking across from NRL to, this is an analogy that you may not understand, but I'll try. I'm not because you're dense, just because it's not a sport you follow. It kind of reminds me when I'm watching NRL and Super Rugby, the difference between watching UFC and Bellator. So do you know what Bellator is?
Yeah, I've seen Bellator.
So Bellator is like the next biggest MMA competition or promotion in the world, essentially, but they're still miles behind where the UFC is. When you flick on the UFC, the arenas are absolutely jam-packed. There's a huge amount of buzz and excitement. The fans are absolutely going crazy. They got the broadcast is just on point, high level. It's just wildly engaging. And then when you go to Bellator, they actually have really high level fighters. They have like fighters that could, a lot of the champions and stuff could easily be in the UFC. They have a lot of really good content, but it's just a little bit slow in terms of there's mistakes in the production. The crowds are kind of half empty. There doesn't feel like there's that excitement. They feel like they're trying to just push shit up a hill by getting manufactured excitement. And that's what it kind of feels like when I'm flicking.
Just like Super Rugby.
Yeah, that's sort of it. Like when I'm flicking between the two channels of watching Super Rugby and NRL, it's just no one there. Like there's no one at the crowds. Like
you talked about how the bad blood with guys moving teams. One of the Super Rugby things they did recently was like not really a piece about it, but they just talked about it. Like Len Apisai, he's played for all the Super Rugby teams in New Zealand. Isn't that cool? We all like Len.
Yeah, exactly. And where he should be actually sold as like some sort of gun for hire, basically. That he'll wherever he goes, he does a massive job and all that sort of stuff. And just bring us a little bit of excitement. It's just, I don't know. We're talking specifically about sort of Sky Sport advertising, but the ad where they really try and sell Super Rugby and they're like, it's Super Rugby Pacific, it's wild, it's lit. They just try and tell you it's great without telling you why it's great, and it's just like
the best of the Pacific. My God. And it's like, okay.
Let's go. And you're like, come, dude, this is just, there is no substance here. You're not, they're just phoning it in. And there seems to be this real disconnect now between Super Rugby and the fans. And I kind of think it started like when we put less emphasis on NPC rugby. Like NPC rugby was the first one where when we were kids, like the Battle of the Bridge was, we would pack out Eden Park for that. The Waikato, their fans would travel all around the country following them. The Ranfurly Shield was like half a step down from a test match in terms of its real significance. But now it just, seems pretty depressing. In a lot of ways, and for me, I don't mean to be catastrophizing the situation, but kind of feels that with all the talent leaving New Zealand, that the players are kind of catching on to it. They're like, why am I going to stick around for like 4 or 5 big games in New Zealand, and then just play in front of like 5,000 people every other week? These guys are elite athletes, and and then they look at the Heineken Cup, or even if they, look at the Six Nations or whatever, they look at what's happening over offshore. Like Tom Robinson, did you hear Tom Robinson's leaving?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. Like he could go. What are the chances we see him in an Ireland jersey in like 3 years or something like that? Like he hasn't made a test match, so it's crazy. Oh, how old is he?
I don't know, mid-20s.
Get a little bit of schmutz on your lip there. Yeah. All right. Anyway,
I was about to say something as you were ranting on about Super Rugby. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, because I did that video the other day where I went around Eden Park on the Force against Blues game. I only picked that game. I didn't pick that one because I thought it was going to be a stinker. I picked it because it was in the afternoon, and having a little camera with a little lens tends to do well with there's natural sunlight as opposed to at night. But that game was really quite dull in terms of the atmosphere, and there was a couple of factors. I mean, the fact that the Force aren't a real big draw is a factor. Like the week before, there were 24,000 people there for the Crusaders. In this game, there wouldn't have been 10 there against the Force. And the Warriors were playing at exactly the same time, and they had almost 20,000 people at their game. So Yeah, Auckland is a city, at least for the Blues point of view, like 3 teams in it at the moment: Moana Pacifica, the Blues, and the Warriors. And I feel like, I mean, there's the people to go to all 3 for sure, but how many people are genuinely going to go to more than one a week? I don't think many.
Very, very few. A handful of people, I think.
I think New Zealand Rugby thought Moana Pacifica is going to get the Tongan Rugby League fans to come along, and it's like, well, Moana Pacifica's a team largely made up of guys who couldn't get into the other Super Rugby teams, whereas the Tongan Rugby League team is a team jam-packed full of NRL superstars. Like, it's just, this is not the same thing.
And so is the Samoan Rugby League team. The Samoan Rugby League team is jam-packed full of superstars. Like Jerome Luai was one of the best players in the NRL, won 2 back-to-back comps, and he was driving around the park at the World Cup. And they got them to the final. And the whole of freaking Auckland was covered in Samoan flags. Like, in terms of the Battle of the Pacific, NRL, rugby league is absolutely mopping the floor with rugby union right now. There really, really is, and that would be a great shame if we lose those talent. Look, I love rugby league, so I want rugby league to do well, but but I really don't want to see rugby union just completely fall off a cliff in this country, and all the markets.
The Pacific's been a push to try and get into that market, right?
Yeah, but they don't seem to have, obviously all the players are from Pacific heritage, but none of them live in Tonga or Samoa. They all basically seem like NPC players, really good NPC players, some really great talent there, but not quite good enough to play for any other Super Rugby team. And Aaron Major is not quite good enough to be a Super Rugby coach of any other team.
He lost his job at the Highlanders, so it's the team of the kind of also rans, and I think people feel that. That's why people don't show up in droves.
100%. So you want us to get excited about this team that you've kind of put in there to, fill the numbers, and it's just a ploy? Like, I think there has been a call to have a Pacific team for years, but it needs to be a Pacific team. There needs to be a way.
If I take my negative Nelly hat on and put my positive hat on, Blues got 24,000 against the Crusaders this week. We got Moana Pacifica playing in Apia. That's good news.
Yeah,
that'll be a packed crowd.
But do you think it's going to be like the Drua and Nandi? Isn't it? They play in Suva, don't they?
They play in Latoko. They played in Nandi, I think. They played in a couple of venues. The Drua have been the stars in terms of packing out every single game. Like, I had loads of comments on that art video saying, "Bro, you need to come to Fiji if you want atmosphere."
Yeah, 100%. And because they are the Fijian. They are Fijian. They are reside in Fiji. They're a Fijian team. Yeah, 100%. And look, what a sad day it'll be if they're in Apia and they don't they get a handful of people.
It'll be interesting because remember, they've had issues filling out Apia Park before because they've had to cover the costs of hosting games, and then they've had to put ticket prices higher than what people are willing to or can afford to pay. So hopefully they keep the prices low and they can get a good turnout.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully that
are we being too negative about Super Rugby? Are we just kind of piling on? Because the on-field product, I think, is great.
Yeah. I think the on-field, there's nothing wrong.
There's often so many guys missing from teams.
I think there's one of the problems with the on-field product right now. Seems to be a really big gap between the haves and the have-nots. The teams at the lower end of there's just too many ass whoopings, like the Heineken Cup this weekend.
Yeah, there's no.
I want to go into a Rebels versus Crusaders game and be like,
not
Rebels,
knowing how it's going to go. Instead of thinking, well, how many of the Crusaders going to win by?
Yeah, and on the weekend where we played the Rebels, the Rebels played well. They looked okay, but it was never like, are we gonna be able to get up for this? No. Whereas. There's only a handful of games where you going, Jesus could go either way, And I think the teams like the Waratahs and the Highlanders, traditional teams that have done well in the past are just getting worse. And the Reds seem like they're getting worse.
The Brumbies seem to be really flying the flag for Australia at the moment as well.
Wow, they look pretty good. They do look pretty good, to be fair. Yeah. So that's maybe we're just getting old and cantankerous.
I think so. Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe at some point we can sit down and do a big dissection of where things have gone wrong, because I don't think I don't think it's a like people like to point to one thing. This is the reason Super Rugby is not as successful as it used to be. I do feel like it's a multitude of things all kind of working together, and some of them are external factors, but certainly a lot of them were in the hands of the organisers.
Yeah, and I think the NZR do have a lot of explaining to do, and just for me, the NZR's decisions, the NZR sort of being in bed with the broadcasters, having too much control of how they want the product to be packaged, essentially, has kind of made it all just a little bit no frills. Well, not no frills, but just very, very substanceless. You know, whether that's actually a word or not, I'm not sure. Substanceless. Would you give that an okay as a word? Lacking of substance.
Okay from the country of China, where they speak Chinese.
That's great. Thanks, China. Appreciate it. All right. Well,
so you watched the Heineken Cup?
Yeah. Okay. Should we just go through the results of the Super Rugby?
Oh, Super Rugby. Yes.
Okay. I don't know if I can tell you all the results. Can I just tell you the ones I can remember?
Oh. I just lost you. Oh. I think because I'm playing with my phone connected to the audio. There we go. Yeah, my phone connected to the audio. What did you say? There was only 4 results.
Okay. So the results, the Chiefs are continuing their fantastic season. Chlamydia for everybody. They got up over the Canes. No, they got. Oh shit! Do they? Oh fuck! Who beat the Canes?
The Canes beat the Highlanders.
Oh, that's the. I thought it was. I watched that game. I watched that game. Yeah.
The Canes this weekend. I think I put that I planted that seed in your mind earlier, and it's just come to fruition.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. And we bet the Blues bet the Rebels.
Rebels 54-17. The Rebels lost half their team due to injury during that game.
Yeah. God, this is a great rugby podcast when we're just scratching for the results. The Reds lost to the Brumbies
for the first time at home in a very long time.
Yeah, and
Brad Thorne as well, 52-24.
Oh God, Brad Thorne, hell of a player, probably the most winningest man in the history of both league and union, especially combined. He's got a lot to prove in terms of the coaching side of things, doesn't he?
His first couple of years started off all right, man. He won the
Australian
NRC, which was like the NPC, which has now been capped. He won the NRC with like Queensland Country, and then he won Super Rugby Australia one of those years.
Yeah,
remember the Reds before he took over were dirt bad. So
yeah, sure.
They at least got a bit better.
Maybe I'm being a bit rough.
They seem to have kind of apexed in a tracking the wrong way.
Maybe I'm being a bit rough on Horny Thorny. Okay, and finally the Pacifica lost to whoever they played, and the Pacifica. Oh yes, that's right. I watched that. Yeah.
That was their best game, I think, but they still
played really well. They were still in it at halftime, weren't they?
That's right. They were leading at halftime.
That's right. Yeah, they've got to try just before the break. I did watch. This is the thing. I watched that game.
You watched some rugby, yeah.
I watched that game and I watched the Highlanders game, but I was struggling to actually remember what happened. What happened. I don't know if it's lack of crowd must impact the players. Like when there's a big crowd and there's atmosphere in there. Because I was watching some of the NRL games when they're going, they're running out and they're absolutely packed. The players just look buzzed in the eyes. They just look, fiercely excited. I don't know if I'm just, seeing that, just making it up in my own head, but it's different to watching old Bodie Barrett kind of go out there and go, okay, club rugby this weekend, boys. How are we going to go? Just on that, Bodie Barrett's been copping quite a lot of grief over here about his. He actually played pretty well on the weekend, but before that, he was copping quite a bit of grief, and people suggesting that he wouldn't even make the starting 23 for the All Blacks. All this sort of chat. How do you feel? What's yours? What's your take?
How do you think he's going? Blues legend.
Did you see him step on the dead ball line against the Chiefs? Do you see that? He went over,
Did I
put
see
himself through
that?
put himself through a gap
Yes.
very, very nicely, but stood on the dead ball line.
Yes.
I think in all three of the games that the Blues have lost this year with the Crusaders, the
He's
Brumbies,
had
and
kind of glaring errors, right?
yeah, right when the
But
crunch
he's
time
also
is,
done good stuff to balance it. Like I remember him getting a couple of tries, but then also blowing some stuff. So, like I feel like he's not gonna be as
Do you think he's
error-prone
lost
as
half a yard of pace? Like
I mean, he
he's
has
not
to.
as
He's
young as
getting
he used
old.
to be. Yeah, but that was always one of his strengths, that he had just that exceptional
Burst of pace,
acceleration and could get
And as
through
you get
those
older,
gaps.
you need to be able to like get in the right position rather than the right kind of just pace to deal with things. So
And there's always been just an element of audaciousness to his play that's made him brilliant. The fact that he'll go for those sort of attacking kicks when other people won't. He'll take on those gaps, and that's really been his strength. But yeah, goal kicking has not been a strength.
no.
Territorial
I think
kicking.
he came out like the first week, I think, and he just kicked everything, and it was like, wow, Bodie's been working on his kicking in the off season because he really wants that AB spot. And then like, no, he's just regular
Not so
Bodie.
good.
He's like a 60% kicker.
Yeah, which is something we've really missed since Dan Carter left the All Blacks.
Yeah.
Just someone who's going to
like ultra reliable with the boot.
Operate at 88%. You know, that's pretty bloody good.
Other countries do that.
Yeah, well, it cost us a Lion series, Bodie's kicking, if you remember.
That's right.
Anyway,
and that game against South Africa where we lost in Wellington? Like he missed just freaking half the kicks at goal.
Yeah, and relatively like hard kicks, but like ones you'd expect an
one of them was like that's a set. Like one of them I remember was like you got to be getting that one, and he just fluffed it. So, but I mean, yeah. Anyway,
well, would you, if you had Mo'unga, or you'd rather Mo'unga was kicking for your life rather than Bodie?
Shit, yeah, probably. I wouldn't want to put myself in either of those guys' hands, to be honest.
Well, we're in their hands as All Black fans. Essentially, that's what it's going to come down to at the end of the day.
D-Mac attack, baby.
D-Mac has been the guy. That's why they're saying he should be left out of the 23, because they're like, well, you put D-Mac at fullback, or you can put him at, fly half pivot.
23 jumper.
And he's just been, he's right in his prime right now. He's cutting up like anyone's business. And then you got to rate Mo'unga above Bodie. So they're like, he's out of the 23. So
you might be right. Genuinely might be right.
Yeah. I don't know. I love Bodie.
Form at the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
The class is permanent, right? So
yeah, and it's just a coincidence that they've got really well once that Warren Gatland has completely left the organization. Just a coincidence. Wow, he wasn't really coaching. That's when he left. Anyway,
rugby.
Maybe he put the framework in for this amazing success.
That's it. That's just all the fruits of his labors.
Well done, Warren. Well done, sir.
Yeah.
Big thumbs up. Big thumbs up. All right. What else are we going to talk about, Mark?
Why did we lead with like just a big bitch session about Super Rugby? Do we need to bitch about the Champions Cup? Because honestly, there were 4 games. They were, one of them was like a 14-pointer, if you want to call that close, but they were all blowouts.
Yeah, they were all blowouts. And not a great week for rugby, really. Well, the
crowds were better at the Champions Cup for sure, especially like the Toulouse crowd and the La Rochelle crowd. The 2 French crowds were just gangbusters.
The Leinster crowd was looking really, really good
as well. Exeter too,
I think even Exeter, they all looked good. There's obviously their fans are really, really bought into it. But
and especially because it's a quarterfinal.
Yeah. So do you think if you're a South African fan of the national side, you need to worry about this form, or do you put it down to travel, the fact that they're not? Because the Stormers and the Sharks were handily beaten. Yeah, and the Lions.
Yeah. They both got smashed.
So they all got knocked out pretty handily.
Yes, there's no South African teams left in the Champions Cup at this point. I do think the travel is a factor, but if you're a South African fan, I think you've accepted the fact that travel is going to be a factor in whatever competition you play in, because you're not near anybody who plays rugby at the same level as you. That's just going to be a factor.
Yeah.
Whether you travel to Europe, whether you travel to New Zealand, Australia, or Japan, Argentina, you're going to be on the plane somewhere.
You're really going to have to work on trying to build up that talent base in Zimbabwe. Yeah. Really, if you want a good rivalry.
Basically on Namibia.
Yeah, It's yeah. Do you think there might be a factor of burnout? The fact that these guys just are not really getting an extended break.
Well, I mean, they did give the guys a bit of a break, I think, over the Six Nations period. But yeah, it's definitely one. I mean, I don't know if you've seen those couple of videos they've put out on the South African Rugby YouTube channel about managing like this whole
No, I haven't seen
watch
those.
them. They were like kind of like inside the fly on the wall inside the Springbok camp, and like they were just discussing issues. Sometimes I might admit it felt about as natural as the subway messages down here in China would say, harmonious society, be good to each other and stand together. Like sometimes the South African documentary was a bit like I'm sure it was a bit scripted or a bit forced, right? But it was just like, how are we going to manage this new like calendar where we've got guys playing up north and we've got rugby championship, we've got guys playing all year round. So yeah.
So sort of like CCP propaganda basically. Don't say that too loudly in China, you might get arrested. Okay. There's someone storms into the room right now.
Yeah, it wasn't like quite that overt, but it did feel at times a little bit. I'm sure it was at least partially scripted. But yeah, they talked about having to how the current situation is new. And they need to find smart ways to deal with the fatigue and the travel and guys not getting a proper break. Because when it used to be they would play Super Rugby, they would have the break that our guys get, over the summer.
Yeah. And I think there's a bit of a difference, though, between getting 2 or 3 weeks off and then also having a decent summer break. Like a decent summer break, you're actually able to completely disconnect from rugby. There's no one in your organization who is actually working at the time as well. You're not getting emails. You're not getting game plans sent through to you still. You're not
on holiday.
Yeah, everyone's on holiday. You're able just to disconnect from it all rather than training still going on, like there being maybe some sort of underlying pressure to still turn up and train with the boys or doing all that sort of stuff. And that stuff can also contribute to burnout. So, I wasn't, when I saw the results, because I saw the results before I watched some of the footage, I was like, whoa, it was a little bit of like, I thought the Stormers would probably get up over Exeter. But it was just
you're right. I picked that one. Yeah, I picked the Stormers. I was like, yeah, man, I reckon the Stormers. Exeter have been in bad form all year. Stormers have got the talent. Then they got walloped 42-17.
Yeah, and did you see that footage of the Lions players traveling in economy to wherever they were playing?
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, so that's pretty funny. Anyway, that's not beside the point. What was your game of the round, though, for you? What was the one that you were like, oh, did you watch them all, like start to finish?
Yeah. I watched them all. I mean, at least a couple of them had kind of good halves. La Rochelle Saracens was kind of fascinating because Saracens they had heaps of ball and they were just like attacking, and La Rochelle was just like, yeah, no, we're not going to let you score any points. And I was just like, man, that's crazy. They got some huge dudes in that team as well.
Tawera Kurbalo, it was nice to see him, still hitting his straps. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, Levante Bodia, the big Fijian, who literally plays either midfield or loose forward. Like Ronan O'Gara is just like, in this week you're a forward. So
yeah, that's awesome. I love it. So that looked like it. And I thought the Sharks started their game relatively well, didn't they? I thought
a few of the games were kind of competitive for a while, and then they weren't.
That player Bosch looks all right. He looks quite quality. I liked. He looked like he had lovely footwork.
Yeah, he's got good footwork. He's got a big boot. Like he can put a huge hang time on the ball, but he's got a very, very key weakness in this game that he cannot tackle the same as life. Yeah.
Can we just hide him somewhere? You can't hide anywhere.
Genuinely, they put Chamberlain, the other guy, in the line when they are defending on certain set plays. They just put Bosch at fullback. And I remember once when I kept all the stats for I think it was Super Rugby. I looked at Kerwin Bosch's stats and I was just like, man, that guy genuinely just has a very, very bad tackling technique.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, that's a shame for him because I guess that rules him out of Test match level, doesn't it? Really.
Basically, I mean, the Wallabies for a while. Do you remember Quade Cooper? They used to do that with him as well. They would hire him at fullback occasionally, but
with Quade
Cooper, a better tackler than Kerwin Bosch.
with Quade Cooper, you used to like just bet on the fact that he'd make you at least 12 points and give away 7, essentially. That was how it kind of worked. Oh gosh. And I thought Leinster, they looked pretty clinical against Leicester, which was a hard one to follow in terms of
commentary.
Yeah, absolutely. And basically that Leinster team, when you really watch them, they are the closest thing to an international team as a club side.
I don't think any one club side has as many players from one single team, right?
Kind of reminds me of like the 2002 Crusaders, basically, when they call them the red and blacks, the red and all blacks, basically. Even like Caleb Ralph. Caleb Ralph, he made the squad, and then he made the All Blacks, and everyone's like, okay, he's okay. He's like a relatively handy like number solid. 11. Even they asked his dad whether he should have made the squad, and he was like, to be fair, in fairness, probably not. They are. Which is, your dad's not backing you up. Good one. Man. But who are they missing in terms of that Irish? Because every player picking up, I was like, that's
Peter O'Mahony plays for Munster. He's one of their loose forwards.
All right. So Bundy Aki plays for Munster.
Bundy Aki plays for Connacht, but he's not usually a starter when Henshaw and Ringrose are both fit. Mac Hansen plays for Connacht as well. And then, sometimes Ian Henderson, the lock, starts, but not always. So, and Tyke Byrne, when he's playing, plays for Munster. So there's a handful of guys, but genuinely, 1, 2, 3, one of the locks, 2 of the loosies, the halfback, the 10, the 12, the 13, the right winger, and the fullback are pretty much all left winger.
And your boy, Caelan Doris got time in the naughty chair as well.
He did. He got himself a yellow card. That was one of those ones where he was like the ref very quickly found a way to kind of mitigate it down. Like he found multiple factors. So I have felt just a general trend of, because they don't have the 20-minute red cards, they are very quick to hunt down some kind of mitigation. It just seems to be, I don't know whether it's the refs doing it or if it's being kind of, instructed to them to look for mitigation. But certainly there's been a change from 12 months ago when it was just there was red. I mean, there's still red cards, but there were more red cards last year.
Yeah. And I hope they actually adopt what we've bitched a lot about the Super Rugby, but the one thing the Super Rugby is doing really nicely at the moment is the immediate yellow base. If they know it's going to, and then just they can sort it off the field, it's just made the game so much quicker.
I was not really sold on the initial yellow and then the TMO faffs about in the background. I thought, it's another rule complication. No, keep it simple. But no, it actually works really well. All the ref has to make a call is, is it at least a yellow and not at the threshold of a clear and obvious, punch to the face red card. If it's anywhere in there, you're gone and you're not my problem anymore. So game keeps moving on. TMO has a chance to review.
If it's not an old school red card, an old school red card was something terribly malicious, and you were just okay, you've just come onto the field with a machete and try to take this guy's head off. Okay, that's a red card.
Exactly. No, I think that's worked really well.
Who have we not talked about in terms of the Champions Cup games? The Sharks went down. The what are the other teams? Stormers went down. Saracens, one of the English hopes. They looked like they were kind of overpowered, really. And with the likes of Mario rotation, they look like giants, don't they?
Yeah. They're genuinely some just really big bodies. So Ronan O'Gara likes big men in his team.
I like big men, and I cannot lie. In terms of what's the actual the lineup for the semi-finals? Who's playing who? What's going on, Mark?
Toulouse is going to play Leinster, which is going to be a massive clash because that's two of your kind of favourites going at it, and then La Rochelle is going to take on Exeter. I don't think anyone expected Exeter to get quite this far because Exeter, as I said, have not been in their finest form. They won the thing a couple of years ago, and they genuinely looked like a very, very difficult team to beat, but another team that loves forward play, and then they changed the rule about goal line dropouts, because Exeter would just be like the pick and go team. They'll pick and go you to death. But now that the fact that if they fail, they get a dropout, they've lost kind of their weapon. So they've not been the force they were. There's probably other factors at play, but that seems to be one of them.
So are you picking, would La Rochelle versus Leinster be a relatively, not sure bet, but
that would be tasty.
That's a final? I reckon, that looks like a nice final.
That would be tasty, because with Rowan Nogara in charge of La Rochelle, that have the Irish connection. So
wow.
I would like to see that final.
Okay, it could happen. Well, for you, we'll make it happen, Mark. How's that?
You. Yeah, I mean, in terms of YouTube stuff, it's probably better if two English-speaking teams make the final, to be honest, because then, hey, YouTube audience,
hey, listen to us. We are people who can't speak French. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, is there much? There is a French rugby podcast, isn't there?
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I never really listened to it. I don't really listen to any yet. Do you listen to any rugby podcasts? Other than this one, of course.
By the time I've watched all my rugby, I think I've pretty much had enough rugby for a wee while. So,
yeah, exactly. What kind of idiot would listen to a rugby podcast? I mean, come on, do something better with your life.
I mean, I'm not. I
appreciate you
listening to them. I listen to them every now and again, but I wouldn't say I have a regular one.
Sometimes I listen to. Occasionally, I listen to your buddies. The old Squidge retrospective, just because it's a bit quirky and a bit different, and I'm like, yeah, man,
yeah.
I really want to learn about Fiji playing Ivory Coast in 1987 or some random, it's just a different kind of take. It's interesting. But hey, look, I feel like we've talked about rugby. Have we talked about rugby? We did it, mate. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about some of the murmurings in the NRL world about players that they're looking to poach?
Why does Eddie Jones do this? Like, wasn't the whole downfall of the Wallabies
it was
partly linked to the fact that they didn't invest enough in rugby players and grassroots, and they just kept relying on, let's get all the league guys in, but that's not a sustainable model.
I think a lot of there are a shit ton of NRL players that are handpicked from the prestigious rugby schools in Australia. Like they take the good ones. They always take them. So they take a lot from rugby and then they bring them into league. Because it's just a quicker pathway and there are way more teams and there's way more prestige and you're going to be a legend in your town. You're going to be there's a lot of attractions to NRL if you're an Australian. But I don't think he's gone on the record to say if he wants to get it, you come down here. Hey, well, a few honky honks. If he's gone on the record to say if he wants to get like a world-class outside back, like just out from anywhere, he can't rely on it just coming naturally, organically through the system. He says when they do, that's great. But if he wants to get a world-class player and be able to assure that they're going to be competitive and they're going to be able to create a stir on the world stage, he has to go to the NRL. So that's why he picked up Lottie DeCary, Wendell Saylor, and Matt Rogers, in the last tournament. He was a big part of getting those guys. And they were like three crucial players that got them to that 2003 World Cup final. And they were like players that actually caused a lot of headaches for the All Blacks as well when we played them. So obviously they've got Sawali, but the players that he's actually talked about going after, he keeps on going on about Cam Munster. Cam Munster is the number 6. That's right. And he is a world-class rugby league player. He got a lot of talent and a huge amount of just a phenomenal talent. Plays for the New South Wales. Played for not New South Wales. Sorry, Queensland. Played for Australia. Been a crucial part of Melbourne and their success. And he always goes on about him. But the other one that's really, really exciting, which I can see your face. Give me your excited face. That's your Kalen Doris face. As he keeps on going on about Nathan. Oh no, there's a little bit of talk, sort of murmuring about Nathan Cleary. Do you know who Nathan Cleary is?
Oh, he's the son of Ivan.
He's the son of Ivan Cleary, the former Warrior and former Warriors coach. Nathan Cleary.
My dad reckons if the Warriors had kept Ivan Cleary, then the Warriors would have won the NRL.
Yeah, and they probably would have got Nathan Cleary as well, because Nathan Cleary was born in Australia. Obviously, Ivan's an Australian, but they were in New Zealand for a good decade while he was the coach and also a player there as well. He spent a lot of his youth. He kind of grew up in New Zealand. That's Nathan, and he worships the ground that Dan Carter walks on. He's gone on record saying his favorite player across the sports is Dan Carter, and he's done a lot of kicking work with Dan Carter and all this sort of thing. He's gone into it in a lot of in a fair bit of detail, but there's always been a bit of murmuring about the fact that he might go to Union one day, and he has won pretty much everything he can possibly win in league now. He's won a World Cup with Australia. He's won 2 back-to-back NRL premierships with the Penrith Panthers, and he's also won. I think he's won one Queensland, State of Origin with New South Wales. So that's basically he's done it all. So he's still quite young. I think he's mid-20s still. Yeah. Mid-20s. He's still quite a young man. So there's a fair bit of talk that he could move on to move on to the Union at some stage.
You have to replace a 10?
Yeah, but he's freakishly skillful. Like he's a great kicker. He's a great drop kicker. He's a very good goal kicker. He's got very nippy. He's got a great pass. He's got all those skills you need.
A hard position though to like transition between control of the two.
No, if anyone could do it, this guy, he is class. Yeah. You heard it here first on the 2 Cents Get Distracted podcast. This is a podcast. We didn't mention that towards the start of it. So anyway, and there seems to be more talk in the NRL circles about trying to protect the game from Union and all that sort of thing. And they seem to be getting quite anxious. So I get the feeling there's a bit going on behind the scenes. It's all conjecture, but yeah.
I just hope Eddie doesn't forget to get Rugby Australia to send some of that money down to the grassroots level and keep the game alive in Australia.
I know, but they're like the horse is bolted. Like I know that's important, but one of the key ways you actually get engagement at a grassroots level is having a really successful international test team. And right now they're kind of slipped so far off the pace that they're not generating that excitement for wanting to get the young players into it. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's $1.7 million is they can't pay all these players that sort of money, can they? So.
No.
Yeah. That's Joseph Sawali, by the way. Anyway, what's your take on that big rant, the NL rant I gave you?
I reckon it sends not the best message to the guys who are, already playing Union in Australia that,
that's
not good enough or whatever. So I don't know, man. Like I feel the right coaches don't always have like the out and out most talented players. You just need to. I mean, it's very easy to say, but I mean, look at Jamie Joseph when he got the Highlanders. They grabbed like Martin Onu, they grabbed Tony Woodcock, they grabbed I think Brad Thorne. They had all these Rugby World Cup winning All Blacks, and they were absolute dog shit. And then was it the very next year they just picked up this bunch of guys who were kind of rejects from all these other teams, got them to kind of bond and become this just really cohesive unit that played to their strengths. They were like, we can't play like the other teams play. We're going to kick the leather off the ball and we can tackle the fucking house down. Like, let's just do that.
Yeah.
And they won Super Rugby title on it. So I don't feel like you just need to go, wow, that guy's really good. Let's get that guy. Like, just always having the best guys doesn't necessarily mean that you got the best team.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. But there's a world-class talent's never going to hurt, is it? Yeah. Especially if that's the thing that you're really lacking. Sam Burgess, that's right. His big problem though, Sam Burgess. I've written this piece that I've been talking about that I've been writing for a while. I've been writing it for about 2 months now, and to be honest, it's not that long. But I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. But I do in the piece I do make a comparison between what made Sam Burgess so bad in Union versus what made Brad Thorne so good, because essentially they were the same type of player, played in the same position in league, same height, same weight. But one of them was very, very successful in league, and one of them was very, very successful in Union. Can I give it away the secret, what it was? One of them decided to play. I don't actually want to play in the forwards, even though I'm this massive beast. And he tried to be a midfielder. And the other one was like, yeah, I'm a massive beast. I probably should play second. I should probably play lock. You know?
Nice.
That's
the same. We're just really the same height as Brad Thorne.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a tall guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Both about 115 kilos. Yeah. I think they're both I think they're both your height though. I think they're both 6'4".
6'4". Big units.
Yeah, big units. You're a big unit.
This guy told me the other day when I said to somebody, like in New Zealand we play rugby, and I was like, I'm not like kind of built for it. He looked at me as if like, how the fuck is 6'4" not built for rugby? And I was just like,
you are built for rugby, by the way. You just never went after it. And if you put a bit of mass on that frame, you could have been one of those big units.
I was a stick.
Yeah. Beanpole.
I was genuinely a bit like fastball to build. So there you go.
Yeah, anyway. Right. Yeah, you could have made a good fast bowler.
I'd have a really bad back by this point.
You probably would. You got bad everything else though, don't you?
I got bad knee. It's under
bad
control.
Knee. Your wife tells me you've got a terrible penis as well.
That's exactly right.
It's
every time you were talking about your piece and how it wasn't that long, I was just thinking penis. You've written up your piece.
Okay. Let's talk about this track. In our last podcast, you literally went on a rant about just screaming penis for about 10 minutes of that last podcast, which was very odd. But
exactly.
Yeah.
What I did. What can I say?
Just quickly, I know you're really interested in something else. Did you see? Did you catch what happened in the UFC over the weekend?
I caught nothing about it, so lay it on me. I heard when I first came to the studio here, you were not at your computer, and you had some kind of recording playing about the UFC. They were talking about Israel Adesanya on your whatever you were listening to.
Adesanya. Yeah, so he finally got his retribution against the absolute massive unit that is Alex Pereira, and did a bit of the rope a dope. It looked like he was getting hammered against the ropes, and incredibly dramatic fashion. Just gave him a little one big overhand right, stuns him, comes in with another overhand right, knocks him out, comes down with a huge hammer fist, bang, and that was like just this hugely dramatic moment. And then, like, you go watch the footage.
Like he pulled out a bow and arrow and just fucking shot him in the face.
He did, because one of Alex Pereira's things is when he comes out to the thing, he always comes out, and once he can see the cage, he does this big. This is the Brazilian who has been. Adesanya a number of times, does this thing where one of his rituals is he lets go of a bow and arrow at his opponent from as he's coming in. So once he got knocked, and once this is a true thing, and then once Adesanya knocked him out, just did 3 bow and arrows like on his lying corpse on the ground. Like it was very, very dramatic. And then to make things even worse, so back in like 2017 or maybe actually 2015, 2016. They had their second kickboxing match in Glory, which is a kickboxing promotion, and Adesanya got knocked out cold, like with a big right hand, because Pereira is probably definitely the most powerful middleweight, but one of the most powerful punches in the UFC, full stop, depending on weight. But he got knocked out cold really, really badly by Pereira. And then they were going through, handing Pereira his flowers, and his son was in the ring and pretended to knock himself out and like lie flat next to Adesanya, taking the piss out of him, and his son would have been like 7 or something like that, but was just being really silly and like just trying to like rub it in his face that my dad knocked you out, ha 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 ha, basically. So yeah, he's smacking himself in the face with a water bottle and pretending to be knocked out, just like trying to mimic what Adesanya did, basically. So Adesanya on the record talks about how petty he is and how he likes to get things back. So as soon as once he did his 3 arrows, found Pereira's son in the crowd, pointed at him, and then just mocked getting knocked out. Like boom, that's just what I did to your dad. It was pretty amazing.
That's really man. Oh my god.
Incredible theater, and like he's been like a lot of people have said that's just awesome, that was amazing, and all that sort of stuff, and like they've used that footage of Pereira's son mocking Israel quite a few times, and they've put it in embedded where like Pereira's saying how funny it is and all that sort of stuff, but it is terrible sportsmanship in terms of you shouldn't like do that to like your dad's competitor who's just been knocked out. So people are like saying, okay, you know, well maybe he's only 11 now, but that kid's just learned a lesson about humility. Like
that's right. Yeah. No,
you know, and Pereira's come out and said he doesn't have a problem with it. He's like, well, he did it, you know, so that's one of the consequences. So they've all both kind of handled it quite nicely, you know.
Yeah, whereas I feel like if anything even remotely like that happened in rugby, there'd been inquiry. The fun police would would be all over that one.
Yeah,
because we're
absolutely.
Too good for that. We're too good for fun.
We're too good for fun. Selling the fight. Sell the fight. That's just what I keep really thinking is we just need to sell these games and sell the conflicts. You know, that's what it's a massively physical battle. Like it involves big men, big egos, and a lot of macho bullshit. And on the women's side too, you know, you gotta sell it on both ends. Like next time England play the Black Ferns, let's sell the crap out of the
the revenge factor, that final,
the revenge factor, 100%. You know, we're only humans. We've got to appeal to our humanity. Our humanity loves a little bit of drama. You know, we really do. You know, that's kind of how we survived. Anyway, on that bombshell, you got anything else that you want to talk about, Mark?
I mean, you're going away soon, right? What are we going to do podcast-wise?
I am. Yeah, Shiza, we could both be in Asian countries very, very shortly. I'm not sure if we'll be able to. Well, it depends on whether I'm in a situation where I'm able to upload. I don't know. I'm just going to be sort of, get the internet and sort of be in a good position. So we'll play it by ear. Sorry, we've been away for a couple of weeks. Very rudely, Mark has decided to go to China, and very rudely, I'm going to decide to go to Malaysia very, very, very soon. But as of May, we will be back to regular service, won't we? Yeah. I guess.
Indeed.
Yeah. Indeed. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this little Asian spectacular. Well, West Auckland / Chinese spectacular.
I haven't had breakfast yet. I literally got out of bed and got my fucking computer ready.
Well, I appreciate it, mate. And you haven't even had a coffee.
No, I've only had fucking twin now.
Stop swearing. Hey, is this? Yeah, I don't even know whose channel this is going on. To be honest.
It's easier. I don't. Getting all this kind of pain in the ass over here.
Okay, well, I can keep these fucks in then. That's great. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this uncensored version of 2 Cents to Get Distracted. Mark, can you tell these wonderful listeners where they may be listening, or if they're watching on YouTube, where could they listen to this wonderful podcast?
Spotify.
Yes.
iHeartRadio.
Yes.
Apple Podcasts.
Google Podcasts.
There you go. Yeah.
Stitcher. Anywhere you get your podcasts, you could probably get our lovely voices, you know. And look, we get a lot of complaints about sound. Mark sounded a little bit dusty in this one, but hopefully I sounded okay. I
can't actually hear myself. I did have a couple of other little majobbies. I'm dangling them, but neither of them worked, and it's 7 a.m. and I haven't had breakfast, so I was just like, fuck it, we're going with the wireless.
Yeah, but do it live. Yeah, you know where that's from?
It's a movie about music.
No, it's from a very, very famous sort of early 90s clip of Bill O'Reilly, who was a big Fox News guy.
Oh, yes.
Real wank rack of a dude.
Yes. Did he get sacked for like doing weird things off in the Caribbean or something, or was it somebody else?
Oh,
I'm thinking Rush Limbaugh.
No, yeah, he got sacked for doing similar sort of stuff, but like a huge amount of sexual harassment, and there was tons and tons of secret handshakes or golden handshakes that were done behind closed doors to keep it all under wraps. But it eventually overspilled because basically every couple of months he would sexually harass someone terribly. You know, yeah. He once rang up. There's a recording of him comparing his erect penis to a falafel or something, which is it's an interesting thing to do. Allegedly, I think that's what it was. Yeah. Yes. Let's bob our head for a little while to end this podcast because people love the audio of us bobbing our heads.
People. I mean,
don't compare your penis to a falafel either. That's really just
odd. About a waffle?
Really.
Sounds the same.
Is that? I've never done this. Yeah. Have you heard the whole blue waffle thing?
No, never.
Apparently, it's awful. Don't Google image search blue waffle, everybody. And then, because I've never done it, the only time I ever did one was when I Google image searched lemon party. Do you know what a lemon party is?
No, I'm very naive.
Yeah, lemon party. Don't Google search that. I did actually Google image search that because someone told me not to, and I was like, okay. But I definitely didn't do it. So I've been told very seriously about the blue waffle thing. But a lemon party is an elderly man's orgy. Yeah, it's just imagine that in your head, everybody. Yeah. On that note,
right.
So I hope are you going to get out and film today? By the way, Mark, how's the footage going? Getting some great stuff?
I'm getting out and about. I've been to a couple of there's a couple of stadiums around here. I went and took my camera and tried to talk to some people. I got told off yesterday for filming some firemen. Filming firemen in New Zealand. Firemen are always like, kids, come sit in the fucking fire engine, have a pencil, color in like something about fire safety. And like I went to the stadium, it wasn't locked or anything. Like the gates were wide open. I wandered on in. I was having a look around, and I was like, "Oh, I could read this on like something about like citywide firefighters competition." And I was like, "Oh, I'll see what these guys are up to." Because like I'd been to another stadium a couple of days earlier, and they had rock climbing on, and they were like, "Yeah, come out, come see the rock climbing." And I was like, "Cool." I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll go look at the firemen," and I got told off by a fireman.
Well,
it's just like get out of here.
Doing what you're doing, you've got to get told off a few times, don't you? It's part of it, really.
So.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't wait for the channel to start, mate. I can't wait to see some of it. Or are you going to put it on 2 cents? Have you decided? 2 cents rugby.
It's not going to be on 2 cents rugby. That's for sure. Okay, I would never pollute the purity of our fine gentlemanly game with
I pollute the crap out of my channel. I've been doing like, because I haven't really making much, it's just to feed the beast. I've just been doing these terrible reaction videos. Which is me going, whoa, look at that. And I love the reaction face thumbnail.
Yeah.
Reaction face thumbnail. Like, yeah, I do that. I do it. I do all the gimmicks. It's great.
Once I launch my Chinese travel channel, I'm just going to be like, you won't believe what I found in China.
Oh my god! You know? But the sad thing is, it makes people click on it. Yeah, I'm sorry. If it didn't work, we wouldn't do it. I'm sorry. Okay, so you've got yourself to blame for clicking on it, guys. Anyway, great to chat, Mark. I hope you're well. I'm going to press end recording on this very, very soon. But thank you all very much for listening. Really appreciate it.
Folks. Be back in New Zealand.